We have today an extraordinarily distinguished roundtable of former attorneys general. I'm interested in a fairly narrow bandwidth of insight we can explore, and that is the allocation of responsibility between the federal government and the states in dealing with the problem of illegal immigration. This is obviously the subject of considerable court case activity. We've seen some states that have been much more aggressive in their approaches to the issue of immigration, and the Department of Justice is taking positions about whether the states have the flexibility to do this or not. What is your sense of the role the federal government can and should play in dealing with the issues of immigration at a national level and in its relationship with the states?
Well, I think clearly the immigration problem is a federal problem. But in order for any programs to be successful, there has to be a consensus among particularly the border states and their attitudes with regard to solutions, so that the federal government, I don't think, although it is a national problem, can dictate to the individual states, but rather must coordinate with those states and their laws and the federal laws in order to be effective. And immigration is not solved by building walls or fences because people will go over them or under them if they're seeking jobs and opportunity and a future. So in order, I think, to have successful immigration, lawful immigration, you have to have some kind of massive or very substantial worker program, temporary worker program, so that particularly Mexicans, can enter in the United States, do the work that's available for them, send the money home or go home with the money, whether it's weekly permits or monthly permits or annual permits. And at the same time, I think that's only one facet of solving improper immigration or undocumented immigration. I think there has to be assistance and cooperation and coordination with Mexico so that some opportunity for progress, for a better life is present in the native country of people who are illegally coming to the United States in such droves. And we should, in every way possible, assist Mexico in developing the opportunities for these people who otherwise will leave for the children's future and for their well-being. I think that what I tried to do as Attorney General of the Department of Justice was get the Immigration and Naturalization Service transferred to the Treasury Department and get it out from under Justice because we were ineffective in what we were doing. Fortunately, during the Carter years, there was no massive effort at building these silly walls along the border of the United States. I don't know what purpose other than wasting money that accomplishes.
You talked about the border states, and I asked Attorney General Thornburgh about his tenure in Pennsylvania. Judge Gonzales, talk about a border state with an issue. Texas obviously has, along with California, probably some of the most significant experience here. And so perhaps not just wearing your hat as a former Attorney General, but from your long and deep experience in Texas and on the Supreme Court there, what are the kinds of issues that the states are wrestling with that the federal government either can be a helpful partner in or needs to play the role of saying, stop, cut it out?
Well, from my perspective, The real story here is not what states like Alabama and Arizona are doing. The real story is what the federal government has failed to do. I think immigration policy is a federal authority, and with that authority, and that's the position, of course, that the Department of Justice has taken in these court filings. But with that authority comes responsibility, and to date, I think the federal government has failed in that responsibility, both Republicans and Democrats. And I know how difficult this issue is in terms of affecting our economy, our foreign policy, our national security, families. The very nature of who we are as a country is affected by this policy. So I get it. I know how tough it is. But we do elect our leaders in Washington to go solve these kinds of problems. Now, clearly, saying that it's a federal issue doesn't mean that there's no role for the states, quite frankly. Oftentimes, federal agencies rely upon state agencies to provide assistance. We do so through appropriate training and through appropriate coordination. But I worry about the future of this country. I think in a post 9/11 world, we need to know who is in our country and why. I agree that we don't need a 3,000-mile fence. It is a waste of money. I do agree we need a secure border. But there are ways we can do so without a fence along the entire border. I believe in the rule of law, and there needs to be consequences for those who don't follow the law. I believe very strongly in that, but I think we need to, as a Republican, I will say that I think the way that Republicans have talked about this issue has been harmful to the party. The dialogue has been mean. As a result, we find our presumptive nominee, Mitt Romney, facing an uphill battle, courting Hispanic support because of how we talk about this issue of immigration. But I do believe it is a federal responsibility, but I also understand why the states are taking the actions that they're taking.